Good morning, Letterland. I'm Tyler, your Chief Newsletter Officer, and as always, I am joined by Louis Nichols, aka that newsletter guy. I'm coming to you live from the side of a mountain on Vermont. I'm working remotely this week, and Louis, I think you're probably trying to figure out how to put some cribs together. There's a big congratulations in order. I know you have twins on the way. Congrats, man.
Yeah, thanks. It's a whole lot of stuff we have to put together. Luckily, the second time around is going to be a lot easier for each of the things, so it's all good. We'll make it.
I love
No
it.
sleep
I love it.
planned.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about your paternity leave because I don't know if that's in the contract or not. But today we've got two incredible guests. We have a great show lined up for you guys. We have Jack Raines, the author of Young Money, and Louis Corneloup, the founder of Techpresso. I hope I said his name right. We'll get that all figured out. But before we get into Jack, we're going to bring him on first. I want to get into the headlines, Louis. It was another busy week in Letterland. Do you want to bring us in with the first big headline?
Yeah, this was a really cool find that you plucked out from Sponsy, Miguel and the Sponsy team. They have analyzed a bunch of really great newsletter sponsorship data from inside of their Sponsy platform, looking at prices for newsletter sponsorships across all different sizes of newsletters. They broke it down by sort of like the lower expectations, mid-range, and then what the top newsletters of those sizes were charging per edition. I thought this was really interesting. I'm hoping we can get the example up on the screen in a second. But what really stood out to me, two things. Number one, really not that big of a difference in range from like 25,000 up to 250,000 subscribers.
Right.
And then the other thing was just like in general, these on the even on the higher end were a lot lower than I was thinking was the going rate. Like I've been tricked into spending some money on sponsorships that I probably shouldn't have spent. So I'm going to be sending some angry emails after this, Tyler.
Yeah, and I think Miguel pointed out that they tend to have pretty premium publishers on their platform. So
Yeah.
that means they should be towards even the lower end is skewing towards the higher end. So yeah, I thought this was interesting. I thought they were potentially a little bit low, but I think that the biggest thing that stood out to me was there isn't much of a gap or much of a difference between like that 25,000 to 250 range. Of course, that probably has a lot to do with, what kind of newsletter and niche, but we'll talk to Louis about that a little bit later. Let's get into the next big story. We are starting to see some of the fallout from Anthropic's decision to watermark written content. And one of the legends of the newsletter game, Ben Thompson from Stratechery, had some not so kind words for Dario and the team over at Anthropic. He said this quote, which I absolutely love. From this perspective, to insist on watermarking is no different than insisting that a ballpoint pen advertise itself as the author, a concept that is clearly absurd. So I don't think Ben agrees with this at all, which I think there's a lot of people out there who feel the same way. He brings up the point basically that, if you're simply editing with AI, are you going to get watermarked now? I think there's a lot of concern about that. And then, we've talked about it the past couple of weeks. There is this whole witch hunt associated with it. So we'll see where all of that lands. But before we get into Jack, I want to get into a couple of shout outs of people who are doing really cool stuff in the newsletter space. So the first thing is, in case you want to feel worse about your life, Louis, there are a couple 17-year-olds in New York City named Jasper Gould and Emil Chilingrian, with cool names. They launched a finance newsletter called Passing the Torch. It has about 60,000 subscribers. It's on Substack. I read it. It's really, really good. I would go check it out. But they got coverage in the New York Post about this. And the one thing I will say is that New York City kids are just built different. It's probably going on the subway all of those years that led to this. But shout out to those guys. That's really cool that they're starting a newsletter. And then the second thing I want to shout out is Noah Bino. He built the Carrier Pigeon app. And I don't know if you saw this, Louis, but I thought it was amazing. It's basically WhatsApp, but your message travels at the speed of a carrier pigeon across the world, which apparently is like 110 miles an hour. So that means if you're sending, if I was sending a message to you, it could potentially take, I don't know, is that a few days or something like that, or a few hours at the very least. the best part of this is that the pigeon could get lost or just die and you never get the message. So I love random stuff like this. Very cool. Maybe there's a way to start sending newsletters through the Carrier Pigeon app. Louis, I'll turn it over to you. Who do you want to shout out this week?
Yeah, first one straight out of the gate. Big congrats to Max Palmer. His newsletter, Nutmeg Soccer, was acquired this week. He had about 10,000 subscribers at that point. Decent acquisition. Shows you don't have to really swing for the fences and get into the hundreds of thousands and millions of subscribers to do something meaningful. This was, if you have the right niche audience, a really cool thing to see. Great outcome for him in the space. Next up, I wanted to give a big shout out to Charlotte Ellis. She is on a, wait for it, 912-day newsletter sending streak, which to me is absolutely crazy. I'm not even sure I've brushed my teeth 912 days straight in a row. There must have been like one missed one there. So
wait. So
yeah,
she didn't. She send every day, or is she talking like she took off weekends?
Well, I'm taking it as 912 days straight, including Saturdays and Sundays. That's how I'm reading it. But I mean, even if it's just Mondays to Fridays, that is still a hell of a way to go without missing. That's like almost 3 years coming up on.
She's
on
basically the Cal Ripken of newsletters. I love that.
Yeah, Tyler, I was going to ask, do you know your record off the top of your head? You've been with the water coolers setting that out for a while. There must have been a couple of days missed that here or there.
Yeah, there were. I was really anal about it at the beginning. I've gotten a little bit better about skipping. Like, I think when my son was born, like I was writing the newsletter in the hospital that night, which I'm sure my wife appreciated. But yeah, I've definitely skipped. I've not gone 912 days straight.
Yeah, well, that's the goals for the future. And finally, some big transfer news. Punchbowl News has locked in John Sollitt as VP of Growth and Brand Experiences. Punchbowl came out of nowhere, absolutely killed it over the last couple of years, seemed to be doing really well as well. What a great team to be joining. Super exciting role. Congrats to them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Met the founder of Punchbowl at the newsletter conference. She was awesome. But yeah, they're building something really, really cool over there. But I think, have Jack Raines waiting on the phone. So we're going to bring him in just a minute. But before that, I want to talk about Sparkloop, which I think you know a thing or two about. Louis,
what a great idea.
I saw this on LinkedIn, this LinkedIn post from Marco, the founder of Latestly. They've grown their newsletter to 160,000 active subscribers in 7 months by doing something really, really smart. Every new subscriber who joins their newsletter goes through a custom sign-up flow with paid newsletter recommendations, a survey, and welcome offers powered by Sparkloop. This lets them earn back most of the money they've been spending on meta ads to grow the newsletter. That means they can turn a small growth budget into hundreds of thousands of quality subscribers. And they're not the only ones. Thousands of top publishers are earning tens of millions of dollars in payouts. You can join them for free by heading to sparkloop.app. That is sparkloop.app. Go check it out. It is awesome. It is helping everybody grow their newsletter. All right, Louis, are you ready to get into Jack? Assuming that he is here, it looks like he is. Can we bring Jack in?
What's up, guys? Tyler, I was going to say, saying are you ready to get into Jack is a really weird way of introducing me, but happy to be here.
He finds a way to do that every single time. Yeah. Everyone is slightly different and it's still just completely inappropriate. It's amazing.
So good. So good.
Yep. Jack, welcome. Ready to get into you. You've done some really cool things over the past couple of years. I've known you for a while now. Been following your newsletter, but you just wrote a book called Young Money.
Yep.
It just dropped. You're an associate at Slow Ventures. I love it. I'm on vacation. I forgot my copy, so apologies. And you have the Young Money newsletter, which is, I think, how all of this started. But I want to get into the book a little bit first. You probably didn't think I was going to drop this name in the first question, but Lena Dunham, there was some news going around a couple months ago. She said that her Substack was basically her book tour. I'm curious if you looked at it the same way, using your newsletter as the as the impetus to get the book off the ground. And if you build the audience first, is the book just the format? How do you look at that?
So I probably did not do quite as good of a job as Lena of just balls to the wall, hammering the Substack train to market a book. I did, like, all my initial pre-orders came through my Substack list. And I do think that for a writer, once you've written a book, if you have an email list, it makes it much easier to get that initial wave of interest. But she's probably the GOAT when it comes to Substack marketing. I would say that I did push early sales through my email list, but I actually think Twitter, outside of just like people currently on my list, Twitter or X, whatever we call it now, is still the go-to platform for my marketing. I mean, over the last 2 weeks, we're in close enough Twitter circles. You've probably seen this pop up on your feed like a million times. I averaged 11 hours a day of screen time since launch on August 4th. But no, it worked. And we moved thousands of copies in the first couple of weeks. Book's been doing really well, and now there's a flywheel going, so we'll see how it goes. But on the book tour, Substack, real life, I mean, I just think whether it's Substack, X, LinkedIn, whatever platform you're addicted to or use the most, you just get so much more leverage than you do in the real world, because you can go 1 to millions versus 1 to hundreds of people at once.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen it all over Twitter, sharing it because it is a great book. I am curious, right? With looking back now, would you recommend writing a book to somebody?
So if I knew how hard it was to write a book before writing the book, the answer is I still would have done it, but I would have prepared myself a little bit more. I mean, my average blog post is like somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 words, and my book is about 60,000 words. So when you do the math, you think that a book is basically 30 blog posts, therefore it's 30 times harder than a blog. It actually gets more difficult with length, where it's probably 300 times harder, and then you're constantly like refactoring stuff and moving pieces around, and it was much more difficult. But when you sign a book deal with a publisher and they give you money up front, it's a pretty good forcing function to get the book done. Otherwise, they have a clawback, and when you've already spent some of the money, you will get the book done. I say all that to say I would do it again. I'll probably write more books after this, and I'm much better prepared. The biggest thing to me is that the internet, like newsletters, are a little bit more permanent than tweets, Instagram reels, whatever, but they still kind of get lost in the ether after a certain amount of time, right? Like people don't really remember specific blog posts for the most part. They tend to remember books. So if you call yourself a blogger or a writer, and especially if you write like longer form stuff, I do think having a book as a kind of physical manifestation of your thoughts, or having like a concrete idea, just matters, because it gives you something more permanent to point at than just blog posts that are floating around. So I think it's good to at some point have a permanent thing that people can pick up and hold.
Yeah, super cool. I'm thinking back to like Nathan Barry, for example, is releasing a book soon. And I know from a bit from behind the scenes that as he was writing that, he was iterating over all the different chapters and concepts and essentially releasing them as newsletter articles and blog posts, and sort of learning from the feedback. And I think he would say that that really helped him to bring the book into a much better version than if he'd just written the book directly. When you were writing that, because your newsletter has the same name as the book, so it's like very clearly super related. Do you think it helped you putting all those reps in writing the newsletter, or was it, is that more just distribution?
Yeah, no, it definitely helped. I mean, Ryan Holiday said something similar, where he'll test different like book ideas in the form of tweets and then newsletter articles, and they eventually become books. I had a few blog posts from 2022 and 2023. One of them was called The Opportunity Cost of Everything. And I draw the thumbnails on my blog posts. They look like crayon cartoons. Like the image on my book cover is actually from a thumbnail from a blog I wrote like 4 years ago. And that was actually...
Did you try to ask them if you could draw the cover?
So sort of. At the end of the day, Penguin and Portfolio, they have great design teams, but I did at least get to be the very strong inspiration behind the cover. And it looks, especially the hardcover, looks very good in person. But I had that blog post and a few others that were pretty central ideas that I've hit on just like uncertainty that young people deal with navigating their career. And you have like, I think it's very common for 25-year-olds to feel pulled on one hand to chase career ambitions, and on another hand, there's all these fun, interesting, crazy experiences they want to have before they get married and have kids and buy a home. And it's really tough to do both. And these are ideas that I just wrote about because I've been writing my newsletter now for 5 years, from age 24 to 29. So I was kind of testing book material without intending to test book material with those blog posts. And then when I started getting interest from publishers, it was, okay, I know which blog posts worked really well. These are ideas I can speak to because I both feel strongly about them and have tested them online, and they really resonated with people and were shared thousands of times. So these are the core ideas that should go into the book. So I did not go into it thinking I'm going to test idea for book, but I did pull from the data from the post that really worked that these are the ideas that should probably be central themes in the book.
So I want to switch gears a little bit to your role at Slow Ventures. So
Yep.
I know Slow has, kind of the more, we'll call it like the generalist, kind of early stage fund. And there's also the creator fund, which I think is, certainly what I'm more interested in. And I'm just looking at the names there, some really cool names, right? Like Stephen Bartlett, there's, you guys have a relationship with him. But there's also some like super niche, right? Like center consoles only, right? That you guys are working with. Which I can let you explain what that means. I learned that, in the last couple of days, but I'm curious of what the thesis is for the creator fund, right? Are you looking at creators and saying, hey, they have crazy distribution, they've built in audiences, like let's go build products with them and help them get the word out, and they're going to build really great businesses, or is it something else? Like, well, how do you guys look at, how the hell do we invest in a creator?
So the distribution is definitely a big part of it. And I'll put this in two buckets. Stephen Bartlett is kind of a unicorn where like he was obviously much bigger scale than where we're typically investing in that fund. Mm-hmm. We met his team around this time last year and then started chatting with them. And he was independently going to raise capital for basically his holding company to go into a bunch of different stuff. Yep. And it was just they weren't even going to take institutional money. It was all going to be friends and family, insider money. And we hit it off with them, and we were kind of one of the only funds that was already focused on the creator thesis, and it just clicked where, like, obviously the valuation for a Stephen Bartlett deal is much higher than somebody who's just getting started. That's where we usually target. But it was kind of a no-brainer opportunistic investment for us. The typical creators that we look to invest in they might have somewhere between 0 and a few million in revenue. They could be newsletter-based, YouTube, podcast, Instagram. But the real bet is that AI is making a lot of things less valuable. Like anybody can build software now. Obviously, good engineers still have way more leverage than people like me vibe coding slop. But anybody can now spin up things that their computer can do. And there's also a lot more slop going on to social media. There's AI videos. If you go on X, I have the Pangram reader on it all, or the Pangram plugin on at all times. So basically every other VC's thought piece is actually just AI generated. But creators who've really carved out a niche and have strong audience trust are actually more valuable, because in this age of what I call like information exhaustion of just so much stuff getting thrown at you, you kind of revert back to who do I trust and who do I know matters. For example, I heard you mention Ben Thompson earlier. Guess what? Yep. Ben Thompson is more valuable now because people have been following him for so long, they know they can trust him. It's actually much harder to become the new Ben Thompson because it's harder to break through. So if you have these creators who've already hit escape velocity and size, audience trust, and distribution, and then there's a certain subset of those creators who, instead of living on brand deals and ads and maybe paid subscriptions, they're leaning into building their own businesses within their vertical on that distribution. They just have such a massive go-to-market advantage, and they can spin up multiple businesses on the same audience. If you build a business, sell it for $100 million, you still have your hundreds of thousands or millions of followers. So the way that our fund works is we're looking for really entrepreneurial creators. That, most creators are more in the brand deal category, but there's a subset that are really big on, I'm going to leverage this to build a business. Okay. Do they have entrepreneurial chops? Do they have strong engagement? Are they growing fast? And would a couple of $1 million help unlock new product development? Will it give them more leverage with building out new content channels? So it's been a lot of fun. Like, I sit across that and our seed fund. So it's fun alternating between talking to people building AI for dogs and then talking to people building like other D2C dog channels, right? But it's a cool job.
Nice. How important do you think newsletters are to being a successful creator nowadays then? Because I think about like that example of Stephen Bartlett, right? Like, he's investing super heavily into his newsletter right now. We do a little bit of work with their team, and the other creators who he's working with, all investing super heavily into building out newsletters of their own, or like professionalizing it if they have one that they call a newsletter, but maybe don't really send out too many original thoughts just yet. They're working really hard on fixing that. Is that important nowadays, would you say?
100%. I mean, I'm still in the camp that the newsletter is probably the most valuable platform you can have because you get the email list. And Tyler, I know we've talked about this. You've been in the newsletter game longer than me. I've been in it for 5 years. You've been in it like forever. But guess what? Email lists never die. I've seen so many versions of, is TikTok going to kill Instagram? Then is TikTok going to get banned? X used to be great, but now X is nerfing links, but now it's not anymore. There's just so many algorithmic changes on platforms where if you have the email list, that's the only portable following you have. So again, and the other thing about email is if you have a strong email list, that's just a much harder list to build than an Instagram following, right? Like the amount of creators who have 1 million followers on Instagram and then maybe 5,000 subscribers on their newsletter, they just can't get them to convert to that. A newsletter is not necessary to build a business as a creator, but it's a massively positive sign that your audience really cares about what you have to say because the inbox is much more intimate than the news feed.
Yeah. So to kind of bring everything together, right? You've basically, I would say, off the back of your newsletter and your social following, you've built like a really cool career. You switched careers, like, went into VC. Now you've written a book. Do you think people need to think differently about how they monetize or create a career out of a newsletter following?
Yeah, I mean, I used to monetize my newsletter directly I used to run ads on my newsletter, and then I've obviously done paid subscriptions at different points. For me, the highest value is actually just not monetizing the newsletter at all, but it's making all the content free to get maximum distribution. And the actual monetization opportunities are, selling books for one, but also I work for a venture fund. If people like my thoughts, they see what I'm putting out there, they reach out to me when they're starting companies, I get deal flow from that. And the long-term, call it career capital and social capital from freely putting your thoughts out there, for me, is much more valuable than however much money I'm leaving on the table with ads or paywalling stuff. But if you're full-time as a creator, the brand game, the ad game, the subscription game still works, right? So I would say for 90% of people that are building a platform to share their thoughts, but don't want to make it their full-time job, keep everything free and then use the newsletter as proof of thought to put yourself in rooms you couldn't otherwise get into. Like I didn't have the Goldman Sachs private equity background. I yapped on Twitter a lot and had a newsletter, but still ended up in the VC world. But it was downstream of, I put a lot of thoughts out there, particularly on tech and investing over the years, that stuck. And I think you can do that in basically any industry. Take advantage of distribution, give all the information away for free, and then like leverage the job and networking opportunities that come from that versus trying to eke out 10, 20 grand from brand deals.
I love that. Such solid advice. Jack, before we let you go, what are some other newsletters that you are loving at the moment that you're reading? Obviously, Young Money, the book, and the newsletter, a must read. Everyone should go check it out.
Yep.
Although I at 34, I am now starting to think, Young Money, is this maybe
so,
not anymore?
So I will say there's actually a whole thing on this, on just like how I've marketed the book, where it's geared at 20-somethings, but the two groups of people who really loved it are like 24-year-old guys who are emailing me saying, this is exactly how I feel right now. And then people who are anywhere from 5 to 30 years older than me who are like, this took me back to that, like, I can't figure out what's going on in my 20s. And it's still a super valuable reset on opportunity cost. I say that to say, Louis, you should read it too.
Of course.
But other newsletters that I have my inbox pulled up right now. Ben Thompson, obviously one of my favorites. I mean, in the tech and investing world, I'm a big Ben Thompson guy, big Matt Levine guy. Emily Sundberg, Feed Me, she's great. Try to see if there's any weird niche ones that people might not know about as much. This guy, I don't know how to say his first name. It's either Z or Vi Malshewitz. He writes, his newsletter is called, I don't even know the name of it. It's called Don't Worry About the Vase. I have no idea where that name comes from, but he's so good at writing just irreverent takes on what's going on in AI right now. Like every time there's some new safety warning that comes out with Anthropic or OpenAI, he's on top of it. He's just a very sharp and funny thinker. I think he was like a quant hedge fund guy background, who's now a big Substacker. But yeah, Don't Worry About the Vase is my favorite lesser known newsletter.
Amazing. What a bunch of good tips. Jack, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone should go check out the book and the newsletter. You can get both at youngmoney.co. Right?
Yep.
Is the place to go. Give Jack a follow on X, especially. Great follow. Love seeing him pop up in the feed. And hopefully the book goes really, really well, continues to do really well, and we'll see you back for a second one very soon, hopefully.
Awesome.
It's a
Slightly
New
older
York
money,
Times
maybe.
bestseller, right?
Listen, man, we're gunning for it. We'll see what happens.
I hope so. Yeah, everyone go buy a copy. It's awesome. Even you, Louis.
Definitely,
Sweet.
definitely.
Thanks, guys.
All right, later, man.
Cool. Tyler, are we ready to get into your swipe file?
Yes, we are going to steal some things. So I think Jack there had a great tip on on a newsletter that you should go check out. I'm always stumbling across things that I want to share with you guys. So a few things that I had this week. One is something that a lot of people have probably seen. This probably isn't something brand new, but it's the Economist sales page. And I think we can pull this up here. But for what is such a complex topic, right? The Economist, I think, is kind of known for its, big SAT words, 4-syllable words, and, super smart, interesting, deep dive takes. This landing page is so stupidly simple. And I think it's such a good example of making complex topics seem simple, right? And then like the opposite is like the simple topics make them seem more complex as kind of a marketing tactic. So I just absolutely love this. There's just great copywriting. They have, social proof features. They just kind of keep it simple. And I love this line. I'm always pulling and looking for good copywriting. It's like gain clarity in a complex world, right? So just straight to the point, like that's exactly what the value it's going to deliver for you. So go check out if you're looking for a sales page to copy. That's a little bit more complex than what Substack's going to let you run with. Go check out The Economist. Next up, this one is getting pretty niche into newsletters, so completely different. I want you guys to scroll down to the footer of every newsletter that you're looking at from now on, because I think there's some really cool things down there that you're probably not paying attention to. And I don't know if this reference is going to work with you, Louis. But Bob Barker of The Price is Right used to say, I think it was like get your pets spayed and neutered at the end of every episode of The Price is Right. And I feel like this is kind of the same thing, but in the newsletter world. There's some people out there who are doing really cool things or putting some kind of inside jokes in their, in their footer content. So the first example I want to pull up is from Al Iverson. By the way, the spam resource newsletter that he writes is amazing. This guy's been in the deliverability game for like 25 years. He knows everything. I've shared some stuff before. You should go check it out. But his footer terms are awesome. He just has this like little nugget in there that I love. It says, no chimps, bees, or clouds were harmed in the crafting of this 100% artisanal and protein-free newsletter, right? So I don't actually know what half of that stuff means. It's probably some sort of inside joke. Maybe it's made for a few people. And at the end of the day, does this actually matter or change the game? No. But the thing I love about this is it's like a little surprise and delight. And I'm always telling clients to add this kind of stuff because it just makes you stand out, right? You just need that one little hook to keep people coming back day to day. And then we actually have another example here. Sparkloop does something similar, Louis. You might know a thing or two about this, but I did notice this in your newsletter. You used an interesting way to actually put your address in here, which is, your CAN spam compliant, which is great. But you said cookies, love letters, and cheeky photos of John Oliver. Welcome here. And then you put the address. So I also do this in my newsletter. We do.
You also request cheeky photos of John Oliver in your newsletter?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
But yeah, I love stuff like this. Like I said, does it actually move the needle? Probably not. But if you can get a few more people hooked and you kind of build those people who feel like they're in on the joke, I think all of that stuff matters. And in a world, as Jack pointed out, where AI is prevalent and everyone can create decent content, it's these little things that make you stand out. So go do some cool stuff like this.
I love it. Yeah, and I guess as an extra bonus tip, if you are going to put some little hidden jokes into your footer, make sure they are not jokes that have to be like culturally relevant in a specific week. Otherwise, you will have something that is 3 or 4 years out of date. And
The John Oliver joke. Yeah,
it was
I
a
was like,
thing
I
at
don't.
some point.
Yeah, I mean, he's still relevant, right? He still has his show on HBO, so we're good to go there.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, next up, I think we are going to get into a conversation with the guy that I know as the other Louis in newsletters.
No, you're the other Louis. You're the other Louis.
That's what he thinks. To me, he's the other Louis, who is the founder of the Techpresso newsletter. 3 years ago, he started this thing. They're now up at almost 700,000 readers, primarily US based, doing really amazing things with the daily newsletter that people love to read in a space that is super, super competitive. And how you come in as essentially an outsider and build that from nothing to hundreds of thousands of subscribers is wild to me, and I'm really excited to dig into that conversation. So I'm hoping that we have other Louis with us on the line and that we can have a chat with him now.
Hey, Louis. Hey, Tyler.
Hello.
Thanks for
How are we doing?
Hey, Louis.
Well, I heard my name twice already, so thanks for having me. Really cool to be on the podcast.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, and I'm afraid we are going to throw you in at the deep end today because we're going to start things with a game we like to call Spam or Star. So for people who haven't seen this before, here's how it works. I'm going to give you 5 hot takes on the newsletter space, just one sentence each, and you can just give me your instant reaction. So you can tell me, do you agree with it? So you star it, yes, I agree, or spam, that's nonsense, I don't agree, rubbish. If you want to, you can add in a sentence of context about your decision as well, but you don't have to. You can just leave it hanging there if you want. Cool. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Very good. Let's get in with the first one. Hopefully it's not too difficult. Spam or star number 1. It's harder to start a profitable newsletter in 2026 than it was 5 years ago.
You said a profitable, which is different. I think it's easier now to launch a newsletter, but then like the opportunities were different in 2020. Obviously, like even like spending money on meta ads, there was no Sparkloop back in 2020. So like monetization was different. Yeah, I would say for an AI newsletter or tech newsletter like mine, like more difficult today because more competition and less hype. That wasn't the answer you were looking for.
No.
It's different. It's like, but yeah, I would have loved to launch like 2022, 2020, maybe like on crypto or like a morning brew style newsletter, like a hustle style newsletter. Then today, well, I guess you have to niche down a bit more. But yeah, totally doable. I could start again, and I know people that like sold their newsletter, like or that are planning to sell their newsletters, and they still plan to do the same again. So
cool. Well, let's get into spam or star number 2 then. AI is going to kill curated links newsletters. What do you think, spam or star?
Depends on. I think it's hard. I mean, we've tried on our end to like automate the AI selection. The thing is, like sometimes you have no insights on why some news is going to really work, like why it's interesting, why it matters to you, and it's always really difficult to explain to someone why you like a piece of news. And so maybe you could tweak an AI system to do it for you, but you have to tweak it. And otherwise, I don't think like an AI is able right now, like right out of the gates, to kill your created newsletter because it has your soul in it. It has your, basically you teach him how you think, then maybe like it might work. So no, definitely spam. And yeah, like I thought like a lot about it, and I think it's spam.
Cool. Okay. Number 3, spam or star. If you pay for newsletter growth, the goal should be to get the cheapest cost per subscriber.
I mean, you already saw my LinkedIn post. I think it's bullshit. So yeah, like you I mean, you can grow a lot. It helps because you'll be able to convince some companies to work with you. It like for Techpresso, like lots of companies didn't want to work with us. Like when we had less than 100,000 subscribers, HubSpot, for instance. So it helps to market your newsletter, but then if they see bad results, well, you know what's going to happen, and you're going to be like a fraud in the industry. So yeah, spam.
Okay, very cool. That's our sound effect budget used up for the episode. Let's get into spam or star number 4. It's a bad idea to recommend other newsletters to your audience. What do you think?
Obviously, I'm one of the biggest Sparkloop users. So no, I mean, I've been doing it. Like the biggest newsletters out there are doing it, whether they are promoting their own newsletters like TLDR or like MarketBeat, that is basically doing like lead gen for other FinPub finance companies. So no, it's it's obviously like you make your own decisions. Some newsletters that are only promoting their own or they're not promoting anything, well, they are still doing fine, but it depends on your model. And on my end, it's been working really well. So well, I start.
Cool. And then last one, spam or star. It really matters what time of day you send your newsletter.
I mean, I'm based in Europe. I didn't want to make the newsletter at like noon or 11 a.m. every day. I couldn't have lasted that way. So I picked 6 p.m. my time, and I kept sending it at the same time. And well, here I am. So maybe it's not the best idea, but well, it's working okay for me. So I start.
Cool. Nice.
So you know, I mean, what matters is basically the time at which like you have to be like you have to keep sending at the same time. But then, so it matters. Well, yeah, I mean, no, so it's spam, but it's just well, you have to keep the same hour you've picked.
Consistency matters.
Yeah, basically. Like otherwise, they never know when to expect your newsletter, and I think people they are expecting if they receive at 11, they expect it to like land at 11 every day.
Yeah. Cool.
Louis, I have a question for you. So that's, by the way, that's the end of star spam, so you don't have to answer with that anymore. But I want to get into, as I was prepping for this, I went through your welcome flow, and it's one of the most impressive welcome flows I've seen. I think generally, folks in the AI newsletter game are doing it the best from what I've seen, and everyone should go check out, the Techpresso welcome flow. I'm curious, can you tell us, are you open to sharing how much money are you making back, on your Meta ad spend through everything that you're doing in the welcome flow? Do you account for Sparkloop? Yeah, let's include everything, everything that you're doing. It depends on it depends a lot on the Sparkloop offers that we have. Like it's working really well for us, and so depending on whether it's working well, like if we have like the right offers in Sparkloop, well, we can make like a lot back, and a lot can be like up to 70%, I think. When we have really like the best offers, it works really well for a US audience. That's because everyone is looking for like US based subscribers, and then US clicks, and then US leads, US clients. So on our end, if everything aligns, Sparkloop and the offers, because it always fluctuates depending on the time of the year. Yeah, we can make a lot of money back, like up to, I don't know. We basically scale. We basically increase the spend as much as we can, as long as it makes sense. And then, yeah, I mean, otherwise, what we do is that we spend elsewhere in the world, and so we're not relying on Sparkloop anymore. But there are some advertisers that are still looking for like US, UK, Canada, Australian-based clicks and leads. So
it's working well. We copied we copied a bit MarketBeat. That they are the OG in this field. The assist was also like they do it a lot. But yeah,
The secret is copying MarketBeat is what I'm hearing. I hear that a lot.
Yeah, Matt Paulson is sharing a lot, so it's really cool that how much he's sharing. I advise anyone to like I read everything he posts. I listen to everything he says, and then I make my own decisions. But overall, like he's been doing it for so much longer than us, and he's just better. And then the secret is, well, on our end, we always need more new partners. It's funny, lots of partners sometimes they keep preferring, they prefer to spend on newsletter ads, and they are not comfortable with lead gen, pure lead gen, which is weird because we can guarantee like basically like a cost per lead or cost per marketing qualified leads, but it's still like I think the industry is not ready yet, or they don't trust or whatever. Maybe because there's lots of fraud in the industry, but that's another topic. But yeah, it's sometimes harder to get people to on board for the lead gen than it is for the newsletter ads. Like they are like, okay, well, I want to have the best spot in the newsletter. I know what I'm going to get, and I pay. So yeah, probably you've seen the same on the SparkLoop side.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that stands out to me about you, 3 years ago was when you launched Techpresso. I think I've seen some places you say 600,000 readers now, some places it's 700,000.
Yeah, it depends.
Like, how have you managed to do that? What's like the secret to why Techpresso has managed to reach this size so quickly, and like, where's this going in the future?
I mean, the early days were tough. Like the first year was really tough. Obviously, like the newsletter, like we went from 0 to like 100,000 plus subscribers, but it was really tough. Like I didn't pay myself. I actually spent some of my student loan money into SparkLoop, into SparkLoop, into meta ads. Like it was really tough. Tough first year at the bank that was calling me and was asking me, Louis, do you plan to keep spending as much money from your like credit card? Because well, I was maxing it. I couldn't spend more with my credit card. So first year was tough, and I think lots of AI newsletters back then, they either stopped or they got acquired, and they are not there anymore. And so what I think you need to be really kind of a rat and really make sure you're not wasting any cents, which I did. And you need to survive long enough, I mean, in my case, to reach a size at which people can't ignore you anymore. And you're finally interesting for companies, at least in our space. And so after a year of really struggling, I was alone for like the whole time. I finally started paying myself, and I think really, well, surviving was the main point, and finding ways to survive. And that's why we launched like the AI Academy, because I saw that the Rundown and other, like I think there was Ben's Bites that had one, and I thought, well, let's do the same because they seem to be doing well, so let's like replicate their playbook. And then after a few months, I saw like the assists, MarketBeat, they were selling leads, and I thought, whoa! I never thought. I mean, I was sending. Technically, I was doing it because I was on SparkLoop, but I never thought about it as lead gen. And I thought, well, actually, let's pitch the idea to some partners. And like we had some companies working with us on day one for this, and suddenly we could really start acquiring way more subscribers, and while spending less money in the end. And that's really when things picked up for me and for the company. And so we evolved from what I thought was going to be a newsletter company I thought we were going to be like the next TLDR, as like, we started doing lead gen, we started having the AI Academy, and now we are more like a tech and marketing company. I don't know exactly how to qualify what we are or what we've become. But yeah, I just follow whatever path that leads to making more money per subscriber, and it led me to where we are and this size, basically.
Awesome. I love
Nice.
that. Yeah. So I think, excuse me, I knocked my mic over. Last question here is, you guys write about AI all the time. How are you using AI, in your company and, to make the newsletter better?
I mean, we developed everything internally. Like, we have our own CRM. We have our own like ad calendar tool. Everything we develop basically everything internally because we save money. That we save money and we are more efficient, but mainly because we are saving money.
Wow.
and a lot of it. So that's just because we spend less money. We are operationally better. Everything is interconnected. We don't have any we don't have to pay for like a $1,000 per month HubSpot plan because you want to have access to this feature. No, you can develop it, and everyone in the company has their own cloud code, and they can basically develop any feature they want. So that's a huge advantage. And then on the newsletter making side, well, we use AI to help us make the newsletter. We've always used it to help summarize the articles because I'm not a native English speaker. I couldn't write and summarize like a newsletter and then grow it and monetize it. It wasn't possible. It's never been possible. And so AI was there since day one. But yeah, now it's helping us pick the topic, find which topic are going to be interesting based on like Reddit data, X data, who is talking about what. So it's really everywhere in what we do. And every time I can automate something, every time there's something you can put in place that is going to save us time, like, I don't know, replying to inbound emails, for instance, well, I'm going to develop it. I'm going to make sure it takes less time.
Amazing. Louis, before we let you go, what would you say is like this thing that I'm really interested in? I know we don't have a lot of time, so I want to get your sort of like instant sort of hot takes on this, but really interesting thing that stood out to me was you said back when you started, the newsletter was the product and the distribution, but now in 2026, you think of your newsletter at Techpresso just as being the destination. Can you just give us like the super quick sort of like overview of like what that change means?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just think that it's one of the destinations for what we do. It's like now we have like all these websites. We have all these websites. It's one of the destinations, and by destination I mean it's like one of the distribution channels that we have for our agencies. And before it was maybe more than, I mean, it changed. The way I think about it changed, but maybe for the end users it didn't. But since we have all these platforms now, and that we are monetizing lots of different places, like the welcome flow, welcome email, all these websites, all these blogs, it's become like one of the destinations for us, and a way for us to distribute ideas through the articles that we share and the news that we share, and I would say advertising space, if we speak in business terms.
Amazing, very cool, Louis. Thank you so much for being the second Louis on the show, the first guest Louis on the show. We're definitely going to have you back because Techpresso is. I love to see people who are innovating in the space, like around newsletters and media brands, and just doing really original things outside of the content as well as in. And we have Matt Paulson as a great example of that in the FinPub space. But I think you're doing a really good job of holding the torch on like the tech and AI side of things there with Techpresso, and I'm really excited to follow along there as well. So we'll have to have you back to talk more about how things are going there in the future. But thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Louis and Tyler, and hope to see you soon.
Yeah, we'll have you back on
Louis.
again very soon, I'm sure. Cool. Brilliant. Tyler, I think we now are going to move on to our favorite, or my favorite part of the week, which is the newsletter idea. Are you ready for a pitch?
Sure, let's go for it.
Okay, so Tyler, I'm going to hit you and I'm going to lose you in the very first couple of seconds because I'm going to say the dreaded words, running clubs.
Yeah, and for that reason, I'm out.
Okay, well, don't worry. I'm gonna bait and switch you there a little bit, right? Because running clubs, absolutely huge. Definitely. I mean, you're not too far away from Manhattan, like Manhattan, Brooklyn. You can't like move in the evening, during the day, anywhere for want of people meeting up together for run clubs. Why? Mainly because they want to do something that doesn't necessarily involve alcohol, but also where they get a chance to meet other people IRL, right? There's a huge need for what people in the media space are calling convening nowadays, which makes me feel a little bit sick, but like meeting other people, right? Getting out there. And so that is a trend that I would want to piggyback off with this idea, which I am calling better than brunch. So the idea for this, the audience, young professionals, probably 25 to 35 years old in big cities like London, New York, maybe LA, places like that, right? And the whole idea of this reminds me of where I was at that stage of my life in my mid to late 20s, early 30s, where I was also living in big cities. And what would happen was it would get to the weekend, like Thursday, Friday would roll around and I'd be like, okay, what am I doing this weekend? Don't really have any plans yet. It's kind of late to book stuff in advance. All the good stuff's already taken up with like tickets and stuff. So I guess I'm just going to end up going out for brunch with friends and doing the same thing that I do every weekend because I didn't bother to come up with something better. So the idea for this is basically to get people out of that loop, give them something that's better to do than brunch on the weekend, and give them basically 3 ideas. So one idea like on a Thursday of like, okay, here's what you can do this weekend. An idea of like, hey, here's what to book now for next weekend, so that you don't end up in the same situation next weekend. And then something like a month out, being like, hey, in a month, like you could take this flight and go here, or like you could do this weekend trip if you book it now while prices are still cheap and while there's still space and stuff like that. So that's the concept of the newsletter. In terms of growth, I think this kind of thing where it's local works really, really well on meta ads, and you can just run that playbook, right? You can do like yappers and organic social, you can do paid meta ads, and you just monetize that, like arbitrage it back through with paid recommendations, essentially, because it's going to be super affordable and you can easily make back like 80 to 100% just straight from like recommending like generalist newsletters, basically, because there's no competition there. On the monetization side of things, where I think this gets really interesting, other than, yeah, you can add in sponsorships, you can do paid recommendations, you can do stuff like that. I think there's a really interesting opportunity, kind of like what Dinner is helping newsletters do. We had Ray on a couple of weeks back, doing really interesting stuff there. You can make that weekly like event. So on the Thursday, you can be like, hey, on Saturday, we're suggesting that you go axe throwing or forging or like stand-up paddling or whatever it is that you're suggesting people go and do, but you bring people together and into a group and you make it a paid experience. So they pay you, you organize it, people go and do it. You probably end up with a subscription thing there, and people are really happy to pay a bit of a premium, not to have to book things, not to have to worry, and just to feel like, hey, I'm not a weirdo for like wanting to go and hang out with new people and meet new people. This is a place where you're supposed to do that. So I think in cities that becomes a really nice business. I'm going to pause. Give me the verdict.
Okay, you did lose me at Run Club, but I actually think this is really cool. And where I think this could work really well is almost tacking this on to a local newsletter, like, right? So like you could have this as like a spin-off. You have maybe your local newsletter, daily, and then you have, kind of the breakup with brunch of your town. And I think that could work really well. Selfishly, I'm wondering where, break up with the playground is, right? Because that's my go-to when I don't plan anything for my kids. It's like, let's just go spend a couple hours to get get the playground, get their energy out of the playground. So I would like this as a 38-year-old parent for, somebody who could take their kids somewhere. So I actually think this is really cool. And I will say, I know you probably made it with AI, but I actually really love that ad. That's really good.
Yeah, well, that was AI. It was Manny Reyes inspired from some of his stuff that he shared in his newsletter. So we'll give him a shout out for giving the AI the direction on that. But cool. Well, Tyler, am I getting a rating? What am I getting out of 10?
Oh, for this one directly, I'm gonna give this but I wanted to hate it so much when I heard Run Club. I'm gonna give it an 8-9. I like it. I think it's really cool, and I think it could work really well if you paired it with the right local newsletter, for sure.
Very cool. Okay. Well, I was not expecting that. The pressure is doubly on for next week now.
Yes.
Gonna come up with a really bad one for next week.
Yeah, I think we were going to get into question of the week, but we're running on time. I think we just skip down to the link roundup because I think that's what the people deserve. What do you think, Louis? Should we go for that?
Yeah, let's do that because I had a bunch of stuff here that I'm really excited to share. There's some really fun stuff happening on socials this week. I was keeping my eye mainly on LinkedIn actually, and the thing that really stood out to me was Letterland insider fan favorite Mike Kaufman doing something really smart with the newsletter club that he runs. So I don't know if you saw this, but he's bringing together like hundreds of different local newsletters that he works with. And each of them does a great job, obviously, like with sponsors individually that are local. But how do you, as a local newsletter, bring on like national level sponsors? Kind of difficult. And what he's doing is he's bringing them all together collectively to make that easier so that if you have, 100 local newsletters, well, all of a sudden you're reaching millions of people nationally, and you can bring in some really interesting sponsors there. So I wonder if he was watching our interview with Kendall last week and taking notes on our talk about bundling versus unbundling. But either way, this is super smart, and I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, he's awesome, and also he should probably steal Better Than Brunch.
He can have it. It's fine. Buy me brunch, and it's good. I haven't been out for a good brunch in a while. Cool. Let's move on to the second one. So I really loved this interview with Semaphore's CEO, Ben Smith, all about the future of media and how they've switched from like basically aiming to be like one of the biggest media brands in terms of volume in the world into what he's calling being an anti-scale media company. Read the full article. It's really worth it if you're a media or newsletters. But the two things that stood out for me were, number one, apparently nowadays media brands are not in the events business anymore. They are focusing on monetization via something called convening instead. Interesting. I have feelings.
Yeah, a little pretentious, but okay.
Yeah, and never heard that one before. And then what I really like though about it is like this confirmation that newsletters front and center in their strategy going forward. They really see that being like, hey, how can we own our audience and bring them back? So preaching to the choir, obviously there, but super cool to see. And then finally, I stumbled across this. It wasn't really like promoted super heavily, but I clicked on it and looked, and really cool breakdown of how Dr. Andrew Huberman grew his newsletter to 1 million subscribers. I thought that was just like a really interesting read. Yeah, obviously he has a huge YouTube following, but he does a bunch of really cool stuff, his team behind the scenes to help him grow faster. And even if you do not have a big YouTube following and a big house in San Francisco that various people can sneak in and out of, allegedly, you can still do an amazing job growing your newsletter with some of those tips.
Yeah,
so that's my...
I will say about that, not about the sneaking people, but I do hate when people say like, oh, of course it was easy for, Sahil Bloom to grow his newsletter to, 1 million subscribers because he has a huge social following. Like, no, it's still not easy to do that. Right. So yeah, I would go and look at, that. I haven't read that yet, but I will definitely get onto that. And I know we have about a minute left, so I'm going to share two quick things. One was Dan Oshinsky. He's on a tear lately with content over on Inbox Collective. But my favorite one from this week, he shared 19 great newsletter landing pages over there, which were incredible. He did like a great breakdown of it. Kind of reminded me of one of my favorite newsletters that doesn't exist anymore, which was Newsletter Examples. And then interestingly, we also had Chanel on last week, and she was talking about the 4-week challenge that she started, and that was kind of aimed at, you know, landing pages and conversion. So I think it's just a great reminder overall that, like, you know, there's a lot of sexy stuff out there, but like getting the, you know, the basics right is so important to creating a great newsletter. So yeah, you should probably go revisit your landing page. It's something I forget about myself. And then the last thing, I saw this was a Spark Loop. I didn't know you were doing other podcasts. It's cool, Louis. I know you're not on it, but a Spark Loop podcast. You guys had Dave Gerhardt from Exit 5, which is like probably one of my favorite B2B newsletters.
Super smart guy.
Media companies out there. He gave another great reminder, and that is to reply to folks who are, you know, or are sending you notes, you know, about your newsletter, right, or in your inbox. Just getting back to them, right? It's such an important thing. So just two great reminders that I think, you know, from Dan, Chanel, and Dave Gerhardt. Louis, I think that's all we have time for today. Do you have anything else for me?
No, other than that, I know you're not getting an invite to my run club when I launch it, apparently. So that's everything. Brunch, maybe. Run club, no.
Yeah, definitely not. That's all we have time for today, guys. I appreciate you all being here and joining us in Letterland. If you want to check out the Letterland Brief, which you should, because you will get the daily topics and rundown of what's happening in the newsletter game every single day at 7:21 a.m. Eastern Time, you can sign up for free at letterland.live. We will see you guys all next week. We appreciate you being with us.